Yes, I'm wearing a tool shirt. Does that make me a tool? Yes. So now that we got that out of the way, let's continue. At the end of the day, I think people get wrapped up way too much when it comes to specs and gear and megapixels and sensor size and chromatic aberrations and fringing and glares and all this stuff that doesn't matter, because it doesn't make you a good photographer if you have a good camera. And I think everybody knows that. But it comes down to the person behind the camera. It comes down to how they edit, their style, how they compose a scene, where they place the subject, the quality of light that they find. Everyone knows this, but everyone likes to take the easy way out, and they like to say, hey, I'm going to get a new camera. It's going to make me a better photographer. And that's coming from the person watching YouTube or the consumer. And then the person that's on YouTube and the person that's pushing all these products, it's easier for them to make a camera review. And then the next week they talk about a new camera. And then the next week they talk about a new camera.
Exactly. Supply and demand, my friend.
You know what I'm saying? He's creating urgency. So you get them to want to buy the stuff. Convince them it's something that they need. You know what I mean?
And that's what.
And they're not even getting better themselves. But all they're talking about is sensor size, how fast the autofocus is, stuff that doesn't matter when you're making an image. And yes, it does matter. If you're a sports photographer, you probably need fast autofocus. If you're a wildlife photographer, you probably need fast autofocus. If you're shooting billboards, you probably need a lot of megapixels. That stuff does matter. But for 99% of people out there, you just need something that takes an image. And then it's up to you, like I said, to find the subject, to get better at finding the nice light, to interact with the people that you're photographing if you're a portrait photographer, to learn how to interact with them. And that's way more important than any spec out there. And people just need to realize that. I'm scanning the same way that I've been scanning for the past 2 years. I use a Releno LED light. I lay the film directly on there. I use black duct tape in order to mask the light. I use my Lumix S1 to take the photo. I use auto white balance. I use an f8 aperture, and then the ISO is set to 50. And then when I take the photo, I'm taking 2 shots on high resolution mode just so I can get the most detail. And then I stitch it in Lightroom, and then I convert with Negative Lab Pro. Are there better ways to do it? Probably, but this is the way that I do it, and I get the best results this way. But it gives me really great results. It prints really big. I have a 30 by 40 in my living room where I scanned it that way, and it just works. So if it just works, I'm not going to change anything up. I've actually been getting rid of a lot of photo books because I don't like when stuff just sits on a shelf and I never look at it. But out of all the photo books that I got rid of, I ended up keeping 4, and that is Graze the Mountain Sins by Brian Scootmont, Jasper by Matthew Genetempo, American Prospects by Joel Sternfeld, and then I kept River's Dream by Curran Hadelberg. I love these books. They look great on my shelf, and I constantly pick them up for inspiration, and that's why I decided to keep them. All the other ones, like I said, I just don't like when stuff sits around and I never look at it. And if I want to look at it, I can always just get online and look at the work that way. Yes. I don't really have too many thoughts on AI. If you guys remember NFTs 4 years ago, no, me neither. That's kind of how I think AI is. I don't think AI is going to take my job. And if it does, then maybe that says a lot about my ability as a photographer. But I use AI all the time. I'm using AI now with autofocus. I use AI in Photoshop all the time, getting rid of dust, masking stuff out of my photos. I think it's very important, and I think it's a tool. Do I think that AI generated photos or art is photography? Definitely not. But a lot of people seem to think that, and it doesn't really make any sense. And I think the more important thing is that it uses other people's photography in order to make the work, which I think is stealing, and I don't think it should be a thing. And I'm hoping that they can figure that aspect out in the future. I've had 2 sponsors the past 5 years, paid sponsors the past 5 years, and the most recent one decided to offer me the exact same amount of money that they've been offering me for the past 3 years, despite my channel growing exponentially and getting more subscribers. So I may have sent a curt email back to them saying, hey,
It's great, bro. Who's the man?
hey, you need to pay me more. And not only me more, but I've talked to a lot of people, and you need to pay all the people that you sponsor more. And also considering that they're a multi-million-dollar company, maybe even a billion-dollar company, and they told me to kick rocks. So I no longer have them as a sponsor, and I'm moving on to greener pastures. And one of those greener pastures is the company that sent me the desk that I'm going to be talking about today. They actually reached out to me over a year ago, and I was all high and mighty about sponsors. I didn't want to accept anything, and I didn't want to make people buy it and talk about it, but I have been using the same IKEA desk for the past 5 years. And every time that I edit on it, I'm hunched over, I have bad posture from it, and it's tiny as hell, and it's built like crap. Just like anything else from IKEA. But I got another email from them, and they're like, hey, do you want a standing desk? We'll send it to you. And I was like, I actually do. And my wife told me, idiot, you've been using the same desk for the past 5 years. It looks terrible. It's too small. Get a new desk. So they sent it to me. It took an hour to set up. Here's a representation of me building it.
Seems to be bringing out a competitive streak. She's becoming even more.
And it's just a super nice desk, and it works. And for the price, I think it's pretty affordable. It's a sit and stand desk. It goes up and down with the push of a button. It's built incredibly sturdy. I can sit on it if I want to. I'm over 200 pounds. It looks great in my office. It has cable management. It just has everything that I need. And I'm pretty simple when it comes to things. And all I want is a desk that works and a desk that I can sit in and I can stand in. And this FlexiSpot desk does just that. I've been getting very inspired by a particular storm chaser, and I'm fascinated by tornadoes more in the sense of I'm terrified of them, so I need to know as much information as possible about them so I can be prepared. I live in the Midwest. Tornadoes happen around us all the time. And this guy named Reed Timmer is a storm chaser who I've been probably watching for the past 15 years. But I just like watching people that are passionate about what they do. And you can tell in his videos that any time that he's getting ready for a storm chase or he's getting ready to see a tornado, he's like a kid in a candy store. And he's like a newborn baby experiencing the world for the first time. And that's how I want to be whenever I go out to make photos or just anytime I'm exploring a new place. I want to be like a newborn baby looking at the world for the first time. And that kind of leads me into another inspirational photographer, and his name's Mitch DeBrowner. And his work is a lot of storms, a lot of clouds, a lot of nature, and even some tornadoes. And for me, I just like seeing work like this that is otherworldly in a sense. And I'm going to talk about that with another photographer as well. But for me, my work is very grounded in reality, and it's very documentary-esque. So I don't do a lot of stuff that looks out of this world in a sense. So when I see work like that, it just really gets me inspired to go out there and make something that's a little bit more poetic in a way. And that leads me to another photographer. His name's Tommy Neese. Again, he takes a lot of landscapes, a lot of photos of nature, And you can tell by his work that it's very mystical, it's very poetic. And again, that's what I'm trying to do with my work. Whenever I meet up with someone or find a stranger to photograph, yeah, I want to capture them as best as I can. But in my head, I want to make something a little bit more poetic as well. Something that's a little bit otherworldly. And I know that's hard to do in the Midwest, but I see these people do it in the West with Tommy, and then Mitch. Again, he shoots in the plains, and they make it look pretty effortless. So that inspires me to do the same. The next two people shot a lot of black and white film in the 70s and 80s. The first one is Baldwin Lee. He was at the Chico photo review, and he was just very inspiring to listen to because throughout 1981 to around 87, 88, he shot over 10,000 photos. And not only that, but he would take 100 sheets of film with him every day, and he wouldn't stop until those sheets were gone. And for me, I've probably taken 400 to 500 photos in total on large format throughout the 3 years. So hearing someone take that many photos is pretty awe-inspiring. And I'm not saying I'm going to go out there and shoot 100 photos a day, but like I said, a lot of the feedback that I got was make more work, make more photos. You can only get better by making more work. And then the second one is a photographer by the name of Sage Sawyer. I first found her work in a Matt Day video. And her work reminds me a lot of someone like Mark Steinmetz. Black and white work, mostly of people, but the way that she fills a frame and the way that her compositions are so complex really makes me want to do that. And it makes me want to fill my frame even more with the 4x5, which is a little bit harder on my end because I'm not using a handheld camera. So I kind of have to set up things a little bit more. But it's not impossible. People do it all the time. And even someone like Joel Sternfeld, who has more complex compositions, and he's a little bit better at filling the frame. You just have to find those moments and then photograph it when opportunities come up like that. And then lastly, one piece of advice I'd give to every aspiring photographer, that is, and probably always is, going to be, don't be an asshole. I've said this previously, and I'll say it 1,000,000 times until the end of time. Nobody wants to work with someone that is disrespectful or thinks they're better than everyone else or has no humility or is just a straight up prick to everyone. Doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how many assignments you've done, who you've worked for, how many commercials you've done. If nobody likes you and no one wants to be around you, no one's going to hire you and no one's going to recommend you for other jobs. And that's the one thing that I've learned pretty quickly. Just be nice to people, be friendly, be accommodating, and the opportunities will come to you. You also have to be a decent photographer, but that comes with time. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys. If you have any questions about anything, let me know. But I look forward to making the next one. I think the next video might be out in the field shooting some new 4x5 film that was sent to me. So be ready for that. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.